here from Do Plus Stuff, and I'm having a pretty chill night. Not a whole lot going on. I just finished my video that's going up tomorrow morning, and so I'm going to just go ahead and do some hobby. I did something sort of like this, like I'm going to do this week when I was doing the Stormcast, where I just like took a week and just really devoted it to doing building models and painting and doing a lot of live streams. And I kind of want to do that again, not just because I'm trying to rush through the bone splitters, but mainly because it's a really cool way to just like getting my hobby out there. You know, I have to remember that like I spent a lot of time working on stuff on the channel, so it's important to me to like take a step back and be like, you know, I need to do stuff because I enjoy it too. And keeps me engaged and keeps me active. So anyway, on to that note, what I've been doing is building a whole lot of Boyz. I'll go to the downward cam here and maybe adjust my light so it's a little easier to see. Got a bunch of stuff that is coming in. Yeah, what's up, my man? Hello, everybody. So yeah, I'm just kind of hanging out and chilling. I showed this off before, but I got a whole bunch of contrast paints to do the boars, and so this is the gray. All the skin is the Fire Slayer flesh, which looks incredible. And then I just I got all of the browns, and basically what I did was I made a whole bunch of boars where the main body of the boar is one color, and then that little like mohawk they all have on the top, that front top tuft, I should say, is a different one, and then I just rotated and cycled them all out, so they're kind of mishmashed. So it's like a uniform color scheme in the sense of I use the same colors, but all of them look a little bit different. And then I went ahead and dry brushed them some different tones to kind of make the detail pop. I'll tell you what, I'm not the biggest fan of contrast on a few things, but fur, it is awesome. I don't know, man. Like, Beast Claw Raider players must be just like living the dream right now. And then today, it doesn't show up well on camera. I don't know why, but this is the orc skin contrast paint. And for some reason on camera, actually with orcs, I tend to go much more of like a pale, like almost like an olive green, much more like a military drab type thing. But I did that color so much on, first of all, my first bone splitters, but then also on all the Skaven I was just working on. So I was like, you know what? I want to go bright. I want to go bold. I want to have something that pops. And so that's what I did here. So it is a brighter green than I normally would, but it's not nearly as like, I don't know, whenever I take a picture of it or hold it up, even just looking at the camera, because I'm looking at what you guys see, it looks so much brighter than it actually is in person. So I like it. It's a great base, you know, and then I'll go back in and just do all the bone bits and the fur little things they're wearing. And the only thing that'll really take time is, of course, for bone splitters, I'm going to do all the tattoos by hand. So yeah, that's up with that. Beyond that, I have my boss and a bro built, and then I have this huge stack of sprues that we're going to turn into 28 additional more boys to go with those two. And all the rest of them, the 10 missing ones, were turned into big stabbers, which are on his shelf. So I just rushed through this guy because I really wanted to try that green, and I'm very happy with it. So this is going to be one uber unit. So we gotta whenever I do a big unit, I always start with the you know, like the, what do you call it, little addition stuff, like I don't know, banner bearer and all that kind of junk. So just to kind of get it out of the way. So let's do that next. So I need that. I don't need this, and I don't need this. So anyway, what are you all working on? I see the chat's filling up. Good to see everybody. I'm also I'm going to force myself to be good and follow what Vince had said on when I did an interview with him about basing. And I went out and where's that? I got a whole bunch of cork tiles that I can break apart and turn into platforms from the stand on, so I can have some changes in height and stuff like that. Yeah. So, and before anyone asks, I am still doing my Stormcast. But yeah. Okay, I got a whole bunch of stuff going on. Let's see. I was very happy to say the final points for Stormcast Vanguard today. 2 star collecting boxes of Thunderstrike, and Vanguard gives me 1k points in easy package. Sweet. I did not know that was that perfect on the dot. Kinsey finished her Blood Reaver Chief, starting on a Skull Altar. It was just about to go right, but then finally stream I can catch. Yeah, it's the Skull Altar is a wonderful model. I like seeing Jax. Took him, I think he said like a month to paint, but you know it's a big old piece, and he puts a lot of work in his models. Let's see here. Got a knife and glue. A little disorganized. I cleaned everything up so I could do videos and not be like overwhelmed. If I have too much stuff around me, I get very cluttered, or if I'm cluttered, I feel very stressed out. So I have to kind of unpack and repack everything as I do videos. So let's see. I'm just gonna read through the comments here. Working on Demonettes, Maggotkin, Gobapalooza, nice. Endless Spells, okay. Trogoth, I like it. Starting your Goth Space Orcs as you're watching. Sweet, I love the Goths. That's what I played when I had my Orc army for 40k. And I hope the guy I send it to in California after that fire, I hope he plays the Goths too. That's the one thing I was kind of apprehensive about. I was like, I have no problem donating all the stuff that I painted, but I would really be sad if he got this and like repainted as something. And from what I understand, he was like, no way, I want to play Goths, because that's what the guy who sent this to me did. So that made me happy. Let's see. That is part of the boar kit, so we don't need that. So are these. Let's clear at least some of this stuff out of the way. That would be the boar kit as well. Man, there's a whole lot of... Here we go. It took me a while to just find a flipping body that would work. Here we go, 3. Let's see. Is your Bonesplitterz army done? Do you have all the models for them? Nope, not done by a long stretch. I'm still collecting stuff. Like I have I have 2 boxes of the Savage Orcs and 1 box of the Boar Boys, and that's what you see on the table here before you. As far as where I intend to go with it, I want enough stuff to do a really compelling Cop Ruck, which is the one where it's a lot of more boys, these guys, and War Dogs, which is kind of like the low-level wizard. And so to that end, I still have quite a ways to go because I don't have any War Dogs. I don't have a War Dog Prophet. What else am I missing? Yeah, I have ways to go. So that's okay though. The real Cop Ruck is the friends we made along the way. And let's see. Sorry, I still want to cough in the mic. Ben, trying to decide whether or not I should commit to my first bit of kit bashing by making aquatic styled fire slayers. So that'd be rad. I don't know how you would do that, but that sounds awesome. I had a, well, I lightly touched on it, but I really wanted to do, when I was doing the fire slayers, a Guran centered one, because in the battletome there's a story about wood, like they use like hardened, I don't know, wood that's as hard as steel to make their weapons and stuff like that from this one particular lodge. But the problem is that because the axes are so flat, I couldn't find a good way to make it look like wood other than just saying this is a brown axe, right? I mean, because it requires like all the little grooves and notches of wood to make it look like wood. So I just couldn't quite stick that one. So instead, I gave them like a lot of green accents and based them in kind of a foresty thing. Let's see. You gonna suffer through the fine cast heroes or kit bash them? I'm gonna kit bash. So here's the thing. So with the Savage Boar Boy kit, right? It comes with 20 models. Of those 20 models, you can build 20 Savage Orcs, 20 More Boys, or you could build 4 of these, which of course takes 2 of the torsos away from what you're already doing. So you could build, what is it? 10, no, 2, 4. Yeah, because you could build 16 of something, which they only come in increments of 10, so that's annoying. and 2 of these per box. So you have extra bodies is what I'm trying to get at. Longest way possible to ever explain that. So with those extra bodies, I will be kit bashing some War Docs. I do at some point want to get the actual model because I happen to like the actual War Doc model, but what I don't like is a ton of model repetition. And so I'll be getting, you know, one of them. And then, yeah, one of them, and then making a bunch of my own. I also have like the big skulls kit, so I kind of think about the War Doc is that they all kind of have these like skull helmets. I think I could do something cool. Can make something cool happen. So, let's see. I think that's everything for him. I tend to just get stuff in piles and then I go through and glue them all at the same time. I don't know if anyone else builds like that. I used to have a mat that had like a grid because I used to work for an electronics company, and so as you're taking things apart, you would disassemble them in a grid pattern so you can kind of mark how you put things back together. I really miss that. Let's see. Bone splitters, yes. And if I don't see respond to a question, write question in all caps in the beginning, and then I will actually see it because it's chat's filling up, which I appreciate. But yes, Kevorkian 590 is bone splitters. Let's see. Cold shoulder. So I calculate I have 6,350 points of Hedonites. Whoa! In various stages of completion. With the new Apocalypse Eldar, I will be starting that to play local casual groups. Sweet, that's awesome. Ben, what lo-fi are you listening to right now? There is a playlist. Let me see if I can. Oh, hit the wrong button. Let's see. I'll pull it up for you. Basically, it's this. There is a copyright-free, I don't know, chill hip hop thing. So it's pretty fantastic. I like it quite a bit. So yeah, that's all. I'm not really sure anything about it, but I like it. Big Pentacast got a spare profit. I'm actually picking one up. There's a guy getting rid of one locally for like $10. It's a Prophet and a Savage Big Boss, or like that. So yeah, it's a sweet deal. So I'm just gonna take him up on that. I love the Savage Big Boss, like that pose of him just being in motion. Also, hot take for anyone in the chat: do you like top knots? I do not like top knots. I have never liked them. They just drive me insane. Which I know is like, it's like one of the most orc things there is the top knot, but let's see. Put that to him. Let's see. I do bone splitters as allies for my daughter's Iron Jaws or Gloomspite. That's cool. Yeah, I'm actually for my allies. I just got word that it was sent in the mail, but I have a rogue idol of Mork or possibly Gork on the way. I'm more of a Mork guy myself. I like the cunning. But there's not really a wrong answer, let's be honest. Let's see, so there is left hand. This kit has so many options, but it makes it almost difficult to find what you're looking for when you need it. Okay, we'll start with those 3 because that'll at least get my my special things out of the way. Okay. There's a point to learn that Beast of Chaos heroes are mostly resin. Are they mostly resin? I don't recall. I know the big boy is. Shaggoth. Yeah. Let's see. What Anthony asks, what sort of units do you want to add to the bone splitters when they get an update. Okay, so Anthony, I'm gonna assume what you meant is what kind of units would I like added if they get an update. You know, I'm not even sure. Like, I'm cool with them just being this big infantry, you know, focused army or like that. I'm fine with that, just like I was with Fire Slayers. What I think that the faction needs, and Mogwai plays Bonesplitterz, I know that, so you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but, you know, when the book first came out, let me move my microphone towards me a little bit. When the book first came out, only the Savage Orcs were battle line, and then they changed it after realizing that, like, honestly, the quote-unquote elite guys simply aren't that drastically different or elite or anything special. They're just a different flavor of the same battle line thing. So let's make them battle line if, and that's kind of what they did. That's where these guys are now, which I think was the right call. But what I would like to see is, you know, I want different units to do vastly different things. Like I would like it if the Moor boys were super good in combat and the Savage Orcs were much more, I don't want to say defensive, but survivable in a weird way, or had a movement thing. And they just did very different things, because right now a lot of the units do very similar things, and so you pick the one that's slightly better at doing the similar thing. That would be my stuff. I just like, and that's just on a war scroll level. You can just write war scrolls to like reflect how our different factions can be and stuff like that. So let's see. Don't play White Scars. Oh, with the top knots. Yeah. That I could never get into it. You know, I get it. I get that it's like an aesthetic, especially because I used to love Chaos Space Marines. I mean, I still love them, but I just haven't played 40k in forever. But yeah, it's the top knot. Cut that sucker off. But what's funny is that is the only part of the Warhammer universes that gets me. Like, you know, people will complain about like how a Lehman Russ shouldn't work. This tank shouldn't operate because the treads are like, and go into like the real world science of why this super fantasy ridiculous tank doesn't work. And it's like I roll my eyes at that, but then I'm the exact same way when it comes to top knots. I'm like, it serves no purpose. Everyone's got their thing. Let's see. As far as like if I could daydream anything for Bonesplitterz, I would love like what's the word? Not Colossus, but like a golem, like a bone golem, as if like all the spirits of the monsters they had been killing, you know, gained the very primal awareness and led the Bonesplitterz on hunts and things like that. I think that would be rad. Take over Mars. Evening. Yeah, just different hero options. I think Mogwai Mana agrees. There's some of our heroes are pretty stinking sweet. You know, I think they've got the need for magic-based heroes down to a science. Because you got the War Dogs, you got the Prophets, Savage Boar Boy Maniac, but there's not a lot to reflect the brutal but cunning. So having like heroes that do that aspect really well, I think would be really important. Give me just 1 sec. I'm just going to awkwardly lean and put this thing. Okay, while I'm holding this in place, I'll read some questions here. Tiffany Doug, when assembling the Rogue Idol, use pinning and 2-part epoxy. That's the only way you got to work for you. Okay, I will check that out. I've never used either of those things. Stephen Chan, question: are you going to read the upcoming Gloomspite book? For the books I do for the book club, I ask my patrons what they want to do, and they are the ones who choose. So I always put like 4 options, and the Gloomspite one will definitely be a part of that. What I've heard from folks is that a lot of people like audiobooks. They were kind of bummed that this month I picked a book that didn't have an audio book format. Which I understand. I totally do. I don't like audiobooks, but I need to make choices that appeal to most people here. Man, this guy just does not want to stick. Tell you what, let's get a little glue. I accidentally took the X-Acto knife and chopped just a smidge too much into the skin, and all of a sudden everything's having trouble fitting together. Okay. Take it from ours. Just feel like you should know so far your Seraphon week and now bonesplitterz week have made me and Kelly buy a new army. Whoa! That is awesome. Yeah, the Seraphon week was a fun one for sure. And bonesplitterz are a blast. So they're not in the best place, you know, competitively, but I think you guys probably know that. You're smart folks. Let's see. Let me figure out where I was in the comments here. If I missed your question, ask again. Sorry, folks. The thing I can't do in Warhammer is the cherubs in 40k. Yeah, they creep me out. For as much as I'm in all into the Battle Sisters, I can't do man-faced mechanical babies flying around. Yeah. Absolutely. Cinderfall Gaming, what happened to your Stormcast army? It is sitting right behind me. It is so basically what I was waiting for to continue, and I'm going to do a review of them, and I have them right here. Is I ordered a bunch of heads from Puppets War for like I think that's generally made for Space Marines, but I wanted to compare them to the Forge World heads for Stormcast that they have. They're a little bit different. The scale's a smidge different, but they're not so far off. I don't think it would look weird at all. So I'm actually very excited. Those just came in yesterday morning. So that project is now. It was kind of just in a weird place where I just like hit a rock, where I was just waiting for this stuff to come from Poland. Where I was like, this is annoying, but I got to hang in there because I know that I want the helmetless heads. That's a definite thing that I'm excited for. And they're rad. There's some people who are just like screaming. They got some guys with mohawks. I like it. So I am going to slow down on the Stormcast. The rate at which I was cramming through those units was not sustainable, but I was happy with it. You know, I was cranking out to get a 2,000 point army so I can have something to take to events. And you know, at the beginning of the year, I said like, oh, I'm going to do Beast of Chaos, and that fell apart pretty quickly. And I since changed my goals to being, I'm not going to get rid of an army until I have 2,000 points painted of something else. So hypothetically, in this, it would be, I'm not going to get rid of the Stormcast until I have 2,000 painted bonesplitterz. Right. I have no intention of getting rid of the Stormcast right now. I really enjoy them, but that's the idea. So, because I reached this point where I was like, there is no excuse for me to not have a painted army. I painted almost 700 models last year. It was ridiculous. So, yeah, that's the idea right now. Cinderfall, I should do a week for the much less loved faction like Wanderers, Darkling Covens, etc. You know, they give me lore and I'll cover them. But I take and this when I asked people on YouTube what they wanted to see, a lot of answers were like that. And it's just like I don't do fan fiction, and so if we don't know what those factions look like lore-wise, I tend to not talk about them. Not because I don't like them. There was many a moon where I was sitting with my finger hovering over a Scourge Privateers army because I want to Carib this at some point. I want to play with all the Charybdi. Charybdices. Okay. Let's see. Adrian, have to add some Raven stuff to my Skellies and do so much conversion to an Archon. What faction is that for? Raven stuff to your Skellies? I have no idea. Let's see. Super hyped for the Sisters Battle model this weekend. I'm going to get 2. That's awesome. I hope that it's everything you ever wanted it to be, and more. Kiko Mars question: with the new army Kelly is starting, she has 1 Urgok Prophet, 1 Ironjawz Weird Knob, and 70 Savage Orc More Boys, 20 Arrow Boys. Oh my god, 1 War Boss on foot, 20 Boar Boys, and a Wardock. What else does she get? My god, she's got a ton of stuff. Okay, mark this. 1 Urgok Prophet, an Ironjawz Weird Knob. He's cool to bring in. 70 Savage Orc More Boys, 20 Arrow Boys, 1 War Boss on foot, 20 Boar Boy Maniacs, Wardock. If you grab 1 more Wardock, you can take the Kopruk Battalion, which is pretty cool. Or even just proxy something as the Wardock. That'd be my suggestion. You know, just making the most of what you already have. And then, yeah, that's what I would go for. I mean, again, you're asking someone who just started the faction again. I haven't gotten my chops underneath me to tell you the most detailed answer, but that's, I mean, I like the idea of, you know, get battalions, get command points, now that everyone can only buy 1, and get some artifacts up in there. That would be my thought. Let's see. Ordered some stuff from Spellcrow, same deal. I assume it's just customs. Yeah, I mean, that's my thought. They communicated very well about when it was being shipped and stuff like that. I think it's just custom, so it took a while. I mean, it was fine. I needed a break from the Stormcast for a little bit, at least in terms of painting. You know, it's just because I just painted them so fast. I was like, I gotta slow down. Plus, I just dug up a bunch of stuff that I know I don't want. Like, I have a bunch more sacrosanct chamber stuff. I'm like, these were not ever my favorite part of the army. So I'll probably throw those on eBay at some point. Let's see. Hey dude, best wishes from Poland. What do you think about the new Fire Slayer? Oh, I think about Fire Slayers after the new tome. I think they're fantastic. Yeah, I think they're in a real great place. For the same reason that, I mean, well, they've always been pretty kind of close and somewhat similar to bonesplitterz in the sense that it's a not just a horde army, but it's a thick horde army, right? It's just a lot of bodies, and they're multi-wound, and they're nasty. I like it. Let's see. I'm doing a little Locks for Love action by cutting off all these top knots. Didn't realize his guy's hair was stuck to his ear, so he has 1 ear. That's cool. It's called character. Let's see. Cityfall Gaming, I've got a poll up for the Twitter for people to pick the army I'm going to work on for the YouTubes. Sweet. Enjoy that, dude. I switch armies so much I've kind of lost a testament to how quickly I go through armies than it is people's short-term memory. Let's see, get that. And this thing. Okay, let's throw some arms on here. Let's see, check out Prince Mesa, done by Guy Haley. He's got a whole series based around the story of an outcast nomad prince. Okay, check it out. Okay, Kinsey question. How's the Red Feast coming? I'm on chapter 8. I don't remember what chapter I'm on. I've been plugging away at it. Been going, I don't know. Yeah, I've been traveling a lot, visiting with friends, so I don't have a ton of time to read. But I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It has been a book that has surprised me with how, when you were here, like, oh, this is going to be a book about a Corn Warrior, you're like, oh, okay, it's just going to be a lot of blood for the blood guard. Like a lot of the short stories for Call of Archeon were like that. And that's kind of what I expected. And I have been so thoroughly surprised to be like, oh, like, these characters are intelligent, or they have value systems and honor, and they're like, oh, I like it. So I've really, really been enjoying it. Thank you so much, Caledonius, for your Twitch support. It means the world to me. But yeah. So it's been cool. It's been cool to work through those things. Read that book. I suppose it sounds funny to say work through a book, but you know what I mean. Let's see. And allied monsters, when it dies, you can trigger more boys. Yep, that is what the rogue idol of Gork or possibly Mork is for. He has the monster keyword, and he does all kinds of good buffs for the boys. And so, yeah, that's the plan. He's there to die, or mess some stuff up along the way. Just act like a big missile. Because, I mean, not just is he big and bad and stuff like that, like he also, he can be mean. If they choose to ignore him, that's a terrible decision in the game. He's got those big old Ren2 punch fists and stuff like that. He's a nasty dude, so. Yep. Okay. Is it Nell? Question: any news on Seraphon or doing Go Trek AOS video? No news on Seraphon. As far as I know, no rumors like that. I don't do rumors, so I don't keep up with anything. I don't have a source. But as far as Go Trek and AOS, here's the problem. I was actually gonna make a video about this. Is that I hate going backwards in time and looking at stuff from like, if I was gonna do a video on Go Trek, I would have to like explain the character that he was in the old world, but I didn't play anything in the old world, so I don't know. And so what I do is I basically just like Google and wiki things, and every time I do that, people get very upset. Like, I have a bunch of nasty comments on the Archeon video and some folks on the Marathi one, just because I try my best to surmise old world lore and it never pans out. I'm always wrong. So I'm not in a rush whatsoever to do a Go Trek video. To be perfectly transparent with you. But I know some folks are really like that character. Pork bike looks good. Thank you. Yeah, they're coming along pretty great. Contrast paints are amazing for fur. I didn't like I did the Celestial Vindicator scheme that I have with contrast paints using the Achillean turquoise, whatever it's called. Did not like it. Didn't like it whatsoever. So that's a no-go. But everything else that I have tried really has panned out really well. So that's exciting. Let's see. I feel like Places of Power would be hard for bonesplitterz since their heroes are so squishy. Places of Power. Places of Power. Places of Power. I'm trying to remember which mission that is. Jack has my GHB. I do not recall. Is that the one where you have to have a hero that's your general, or a wizard, or an artifact? I can't remember. I don't know. Oh, I mean, nerd rage is real. Absolutely. 110%. I see all of it. I tell you what, there was this really funny, this is just, here's a recap of all the events that have happened since the game's launch to try and get people caught up, right? Like, here's what set up the event of the Soul Wars and all that stuff. And for the first week, I got nothing but like, hey, I was super lost and this helps. Thank you, right? It's just like people saying, or making minor corrections and being constructive and really nice. But then some switch got flipped in the YouTube algorithms, and they must have been showing that video to everyone who is like a diehard fantasy battle player, because like the second week it was up, I got blown up with absolute filth about what an idiot I am for liking Age of Sigmar, and how this game, it was the killer of their hobby, and it ruined their lives because it got rid of fantasy battle, all this stuff. I mean, it was just very dramatic, but I thought that was particularly entertaining, where it's just like, it was just so suddenly like YouTube figured out that these guys really hate Age of Sigmar and then started showing it to them. So I had to get chuckle at that. Everything stayed civil. Nothing got personal. You know, it's fine. Let's see. The flesh ones are pretty good. Oh, contrast paints. Yeah, I did my whole mana core in contrast, and it's the best flesh I've done. Yeah, I like it. The I haven't seen any problems with the flesh colors. The browns, I think, are the strongest in terms of like coverage and having good definition, meaning like you can see the highlights and you can see the shadows and that kind of stuff. Love it. It's when they get to the bright colors that I think things become hit or miss. Like, I think the contrast red is amazing. People love it, but I tried the blues, and the blues just don't seem to have the same pop. You know what I mean? In terms of like highlights and shading and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm just not sold on them. And greens are a mixed bag, because I like the orc skin, but I'm not a huge fan of the warp skaven one. Yeah. Let's see. Table marks. I'm not happy with the pink or purples. Good to know. So I'm not going to use them for my Slaanesh. That's good to know. We're going to do a bunch of experiments. Well, I say we guys at Rerolling Ones, because Jack's doing his Slaanesh faction. He had the Keepers of Secrets commission painted, but he's going to be painting up the rest of the army to match. Like, he let the artist pretty much have full reign, and then he's going to go back and like kind of do his own thing, which I think is the best way to do it. You know, you let your artist go wild with their imagination, and then you work with that. But yeah, so he's gonna have to figure out, I think his are like light blues and purples, so that'll be a fun challenge. Let's see. Kevin Carpenter, my local game store says they don't stock AOS because they backlash, and that no one here plays it anyway. They told me they could order it if I wanted, though. That's lame. That's lame. That's when you just walk away like, no, because you won't support it if it's here. Up to you. Not gonna tell you to spend your money. Okay, we have Cody Bennett. Do you have any tips for starting a Warhammer club at your local gaming store and generating hype? Any tip for starting a Warhammer club? Well, I mean, I did okay around here with my group on Thursday nights. I think relatively. I just had a lot of life stuff come up where I haven't been around recently. But stuff that's important is, I would say, ask your store if they. So I guess what it comes down to is people will buy into something if they feel like it's supported and an option. So you can go to your store guy and be like, hey, would you mind getting some start collecting boxes and just having them on the shelf? That way, when you do a demo, which you should do demo days, you can point people towards something. I always recommend doing demos, and you can like ask them, hey, can you pump this out on Facebook? You can go to Facebook groups on yourself on your personal account and pimp it out there and throw the information around. Yeah, I mean, you just gotta show up regularly, have models so that anyone can walk up and do a demo, and ask that the store try to support you as best as possible. That's kind of what I did. The store was already stocking AOS though, so it's not like I was really asking anything of them specifically. Oops. It was more that the place where I do my game nights, they have a tendency to like dump their stock very quickly. Like if stuff doesn't sell the way they want it to, they're like, "Oh, it's now 40% off. Get rid of it and don't touch it again." And I had a conversation to be like, "Don't do that. Please stop doing that thing." Let's see. Atomic Topher, go wild and paint your orcs orange? No, man. I already tried this orc skin green. I like it. Tell people all the time I'm glad GW ended fantasy. I have mixed feelings. I played fantasy for about 9 months before it went away. It's hard. It's hard because everybody has really good points where it's like, this is probably the worst product release, international product release that I've seen in my adult life happening in real time. At the same time, it's like, I also don't think fantasy had a whole lot of places to go. So I get it. Especially if the kind of direction they wanted to go is these incredibly fantastic things that couldn't exist in the real-ish style world that they had built before. So I don't know. I have mixed opinions about it. Obviously, I like AOS. So we know that. Let's see. Real Lunch Jack, would you build more stuff for me at table? Absolutely. These might sit on my shelf for a while if the faction doesn't play super hot, but they're not going. I'll be darned if I give another army to Jack to use against me and beat me. He beat me with the KO the other night. Very disappointed in myself, the KO, and Jack. Let's see. Trippy the Shroom helping out with some answers there about building clubs. Awesome. Let's see. I'm a 40k player, and honestly, I've been desperate to jump over to AOS for ages now. It seems like so much fun, better game system. You know, I will be honest. First of all, welcome, Ken. One thing that I would say is, I'm not sure why this is, and this is just my personal observation. Doesn't mean anything. For some reason, I find that people who play AOS, or at least like the general vibe of AOS and the way it's supported by tournaments and that kind of stuff, it just feels like a more like we're in it for the fun rather than to win. Whereas I've been to multiple 40k events. There's a really hot scene locally. Like I said, it's just my opinion because it's a local thing, but like 3 of our players go down to the Las Vegas Open and compete at the highest level of play for 40k and that kind of stuff, and it's just not my kind of fun. You know what I mean? Getting your teeth kicked in all the time. The list building is the worst to me. The way that command points get used and abused, I don't know. There's a lot of things like that just keep me away from 40k, and that have just never been a thing in AOS. I'm just like, I like it. I feel like I can build more thematic armies. I feel like I'm rewarded for building more and more thematic armies. You know what I mean? Like, you know, in 40k you get command points, which is great for sure. But I feel like with the way allegiance abilities work and stuff like that, I'm really encouraged to build armies that just match the really cool stories that exist in this world. So anyway, that was a long rant to say welcome, and I agree. Let's see. Let me see here. Oh wait, I lost where I was in the chat. Jack says I beat myself with the KO. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I saw how the game was going to be if I didn't move aggressively across the table, and it looked boring. So I was like, I'm just going to teleport right into his range of his guns. Because I would rather lose than have a boring game where nobody moves. goes way far back. He's cool. He's like throwing the club around his back, but about that. But I've never heard of Winnetka or Green Tower Games. Sorry, Maurice. I don't know. Oh yeah, I live in the greater Seattle, Washington area. Let's see. Ben, as a veteran 40k player in both casual and competitive games, AOS feels more fair than 40k. I tend to agree with that. But I mean, I say that fully admitting that I have not played at the highest level of play for 40k and AOS and stuff. Let's see. Even in my local area, other games, like obviously I want to expand the channel and cover more stuff, and I want to do this full time. And to do that, at some point, I have to play with something else besides just AOS. I think the market's just not big enough to have a full-time income off of that. When I look at other games, I'm like, I don't think 40k looks super fun right now. So I'm like, nah, I don't do that. And then I look at other stuff, I'm like, Necromunda looks way more fun. So I've been kind of poking around, asking questions about that locally, because I think Necromunda just has a lot of flavor. But yeah, we'll see Warcraft come out, and I'll jump on that bandwagon as well. So I'm very excited about. Let's see. Sorry about that, I'm just drying off the paint here. Super not sure about this guy, if I like him or not. Let's see, do we have a different arm for him? It's one of those things, like I think this arm was meant if he was wielding a different weapon, but none of that is marked. Here we go. Malifaux 3rd edition is right around the corner. I might look into that. Actually, I love the setting of Malifaux, and if you have not listened to the, oh my gosh, if you know it, please say it in the chat. The name of the Malifaux podcast, where it's like a fake radio program, like from the 1920s. Do yourself a favor and listen to that, because it is super high production and a lot of fun. It's basically just like this interweaving drama and stories of all the characters in that setting and how they all relate to one another. It's actually a ton of fun. I knew nothing about the game, but I was just like, this is so entertaining. Yeah. Time to return to War Machine. Here's the thing. Okay. Real talk. Hashtag real talk. Not realm talk. Real talk. I actually, like about 3 months ago, I was like, this is dumb. I live right next to Privateer Press. There should be no reason that I'm not at least talking about War Machine, because it is another big miniatures game on the market. And I tried to get back into it in terms of, like, I was just asking questions before I bought anything, like where factions sit and how things play now. I know they had a new edition of that. And the amount of vitriol in that community right now, I was like, oh no, I don't want to be here at all. Holy smokes. People were not kind, not nice, not welcoming at all. Like, I just asked, like, so what did I ask? It was a very basic question, like, how do the factions compare to what they were like 4 years ago, which is kind of when I stopped playing War Machine Hordes. And like, I got 3 responses within like 5 minutes, and every one of them was just laced with profanity about how terrible things are and how terrible the company is. And I was just like, why are you guys playing? Why are you so active in this forum if you just like hate this thing? Like, my goodness. So anyway, and that kind of scared me away, I'm not gonna lie to you. I miss my War Machine and Hordes group from Iowa. It's actually the group that got me into wargaming in general. And the reason I miss them so much is because, like, you know, they encourage the hobby, which up here, you know, Privateer Press is here. Lock and Load is their big annual event, kind of like Warhammer Fest. And yet, you can look across, like, the greater Seattle area, and you're hard pressed to find a painted army because they don't encourage the hobby. Nobody cares. Nothing looks good. I don't know. It's just half the time models aren't even fully like built. They're like, well, this is a multi-kit, and I don't want to lock myself into an option, so it's just a half a robot with no arms or head. And you're like, well, I won't play against that. I won't play against the big stompy robot with a gun. I don't know. So that's my thoughts on War Machine Hordes. Is like, the game still interests me because many of the models I think look super intriguing. I love the steampunk style, and I would be willing to do the lore, but it just seems like it's just a really rough place for the community right now, so they got to work through that. Let's see. Infinity is a great game with a very high learning curve. Question, what is the #1 tip you would give new AOS players? Well, funny fact, I have a video going out tomorrow about getting into Age of Sigmar. As far as, like, to answer your question really briefly, #1 tip. I mean, besides the big ones of, like, go slow, you know what I mean? Don't try taking on too much before you're ready. Start small, you know what I mean? Like, it can be overwhelming when you jump into a community and we're all chatting about, like, realmscape features and realm-specific artifacts and battletome allegiance abilities. There's a lot of information to digest, but if you just start small with the free things in the app and the free core rules and just build incrementally from there, you'll be good. Start small, grow slowly. Let's see. Librarian of Hope. In game terms, can someone tell me what the Mortis engine does? He is a mortal wound bomb. He just kind of flies up, poops out a bunch of mortal wounds, and then shakes his fist angrily at people. Let's see. Infinity is a really cool game. It is like a cool, sleek sci-fi version of, like, Necromunda, where there's a lot of minutia, a lot of tiny little rules, but you can build some really cool moments and stories out of it. Let's see. Benjamin Dolby, 2+ stuff. Are those orcs you're working on? Yes, it is. Bonesplitterz. I'm working on Ironbreaker 2 out of 10 tonight. Nice. Thanks for the AOS content. Thank you so much for watching. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to reach behind me real quick. Let's see. I think the best beginner faction is Nurgle. What do you think on that one? Best beginner faction. Was that a question that I missed? Best beginner faction. I don't think it's Stormcast right now anyway, which is weird because usually their poster boy is always the best place to start. What do I think is the best to start? Yeah, Maggotkin is great because they got it all. They got some shooting with the death heads thrown around. They got big models. They got smaller models and nurgling swarms. They got a dope start collecting box, whether it's demons or mortals, full of cool models. It's hard to beat them. The thing I don't like about Death as a starting point is that it's just a lot of upfront cost. before you really start to feel like how strong the army is and that kind of stuff. So let's see. Start AOS with Slaanesh, most because they have a large 40k Astra Militarum force and Trader Guard is the thing. Yeah, makes sense. Engineers, bonesplitterz. Yep, that is the way it be. Someone asked if this is the first time I've gone back to an army. Technically, the Stormcast were ish. But I mean, I don't know if because I inherited somebody else's army where they had already started painting it Hallowed Knights, and so I was like, I'm just gonna keep on going with that. And I don't know, it didn't have like. Let's see. Loving the tunes. Am I showing my age? No. It's there. It's there to be enjoyed. Let's see. Probably gonna hop off in the next half hour. So if anyone's setting their clocks, put me at about 8:30 here. Gotta go get some dinner ready for the missus. Let's see. I love the lo-fi stuff. This channel wouldn't exist without it. It's just because it's so nice and rhythmic and chill. It's usually what I listen to when I put notes together for videos, which is honestly the hardest part of this channel, of maintaining it, is just constantly making notes for videos. It's like homework, but you know, for fun and stuff. Let's see. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 more heads. Need to confirm if Night Hunt can use the engine, the Mortis engine. I have no idea. I loaned out my my General's Handbook, so I couldn't tell you. But the Allies chart, whatever like that, you should be able to. "24/7 Doug Lo-Fi painting his channel." Oh, 24/7. I don't know how those like Twitch streamers where all they do is paint models for eternity, how they do it. I would lose my mind. I would start off really well because I did that mega show for like 6 hours one time, and I actually felt pretty good after that. I was like, okay, cool, I can do this. But the second I tried to move from my chair, I realized that like slowly my body and the chair had merged, and I became a crippled old man the second I tried to get up. It was not good. It was kind of. Have you ever seen those memes about joking about how, you know, your legs fall asleep when you're looking at memes on the toilet and you just kind of like fall into mush when you try to get up? It's exactly what my life was like when I tried to stand up after that stream. It's too real. Okay, getting all the right-handed weapons, the shivs out. One of my favorite things about this kit, metal jaws of the 40k Iron Jaw, 40k Iron Jaws, 40k Orcs, where they have all the bosses have the big mouth jaw on them. I think the coolest thing that they do in terms of art direction, and I love it. And so that's what a good portion of my guys will have, is like the big mouth jaws, make them look all intimidating and scary. Let's see. Question: do you design your initial army purchases at 2K? To say that I plan my purchases is a strong term. I kind of just am like, that looks cool, and I kind of build things around it from there. And it sounds like I'm joking, but honestly, largely I'm not. I do end up with units. I'm like, I don't really want this. What am I doing? Why did I buy this? Yeah, like when I think of an army, I do tend to think of it like, how does this work at 2K? Because that tends to be what people play. I know for me and the guys for Reeling Ones, we also really enjoy 1500 because it gets stuff done a lot faster, and we can all just sit down and chill. I mean, with the exception of Brent, they're all super old guys. Jack can confirm, he's one of them. And they just, they need to sit down, watch their programs. So, no, I generally, in terms of time it takes for setup and teardown, I really do enjoy 1500 the most. But yeah, somewhere in that time zone is pretty much what we're looking at. Let's see. Kinsey, I get what I think is cool and what I really want first, and then go figure out how to fit it all in 2,000 points afterwards. Pretty much, yeah, that's what I do. It's a little different for armies like Bonesplitterz or Skaven, where like the horde is part of the visual aspect and appeal. Because that would dictate like, oh, I just want an infantry heavy army, and then you have to support it with various things. So, yeah. But yeah, usually I start with a unit or a hero or something like that. I just pick a model or a unit, and I just say like, I like this. How do I make this work? And it kind of just goes from there. Sorry about that. I'm just getting to the point where it gets a little confusing because I'm trying to match arms. So the bonesplitterz kit's interesting because like some of the arms are built just kind of facing different directions, so to speak. So you get guys who are in all sorts of weird positions. Yeah, that's for him. Okay. Let's see. Kevin Carpenter, my favorite factions are even models are usually never viable in competition. Yep, typically. It's always the cool ones you're like, I don't know how to use this. Boss Slagfist should be fun. Hobby hang out with my 2-year-old and Teletubbies. Sweet. I dig it. That's why I try to keep the I remember one time I had a guy walk up to me, it was just a local gentleman who played at a store I was at, and came up to me and thanked me for not cussing, because the only time he has to hobby is when his little girl was sitting next to him watching like My Little Pony or something like that, and he was just like, it's so nice. I was like, yes, that's awesome. Let's see. Kenzie, see, basic infantry is the stuff I tend to be drawn to. Yep, and honestly, for the most part, when I'm helping new folks like decide on what faction to grab, like if they ask my opinion, I always say like, look at the models you like. I said, but you should probably take a look at like what the basic infantry of the army is, because that's kind of defines a lot of the character, right? It's what you're going to be using the most. You know what I mean? Like, usually just the heroes are just better, cooler looking versions of that little dude. I think of like KO as a good example. It's like, do you like dwarfs in, submersible suits? Yes, cool. and all the heroes are just different variations of, a scuba diving suit, but for the sky. Let's see. In the Navy, my kid is doomed. That's funny. Nah, it's fine. I come from a home where we cuss like sailors growing up. My mom used to say our family crest was just like a stained glass window, but it's just a hand giving the middle finger. I don't know. That's my environment. Let's see. Looks like we're helping somebody build a Night Hunt army. Sweet, sweet. Night Hunt is one of those awesome factions where I love the lore. I love Lady Hollander specifically. It's just never one that, like, I think I'm just afraid the models that I have touched just seem so spindly that I'm so rough on my models. Like, I know that I am, so I've always been afraid to try and building them. Build these guys because grabbing the parts for this many was a mistake, so let's just build some of them and get them out of the way. Bit off more than I could chew. That'd be a dope crest. Yeah. Hey, Hugh from California. G Corley 89. Watch our videos. Awesome job. Keep it up. Thanks for the great content. Oh, thank you so much. It's very kind of you to say. I will do my best. Got some interesting videos coming up here soon. I'm actually going to start a new series by request of multiple patrons and people who responded to my question on YouTube, the community thing, about a tactical series. Just like, hey, how do I get better at playing the game for new folks? So, like, how to do the best kind of charges and how to do the best shooting and that kind of stuff. So, a whole bunch of new content. Hope everyone enjoys it. But, you know, even if they don't, it's all good. Live, love, love. Let's see. Thank God for plastic glue. Yep. Yeah, I always use plastic glue. I love it. All my Stormcast staves, just all of them. Yep. Yeah, so I had those like well-painted Paladors that I just recently built. Took them out to game night once, and I broke 2 of the javelins. I was just like, this sucks. It's gonna happen, you know. I just need to find a better way to transport them. I'll probably get like a magnetized tray or something like that. But I was like, man, this is like the Titanic crashing. So beautiful. They look so good, and then I broke them. 2+ stuff in chat from Benjamin. Any tips or resources for banner symbols? Dwarven and Dwarf in particular? Are there transfers I could track down on eBay? I'm sure there are transfers. I have zero doubts about that. But if you're trying to draw them, I'm the wrong person to ask for freehand stuff. I actually just recently started trying. Yeah, I don't know. All I know is like you have to like take whatever you're trying to do and then break it down in the chat. Let's see, I need a right arm. I'll be right back to the chat. I just need to grab an arm. Let's see. Dolby, you should use that family crest. Alright, let's see. Nathan Anderson, question. I have a question. If you could push a button and make AOS as popular as 40k and 40k as popular as AOS, would you do it? Only if it would maintain their respective feels of those communities. Meaning, you know, as long as like the people who are incredibly all about competitive stuff for 40k, which in my local area, it probably shades my opinion, but they are. could still be that way and AOS remained, I would say, more lighthearted and somewhat balanced and that kind of stuff, sure. But also, I want everyone to play everything. And not just from Games Workshop. Like, I really do want to support some of the other game companies, because competition is good. Let's see. Question: what do you think Doug will win? What do you think will win, Abaddon or Archaon, lore-wise? They are so vastly different. That's all I have to say. The settings are 100% different. I don't do crossover stuff too much, simply because the context is so very, very different for those two heroes. Let's see. I think Archaon is probably a better hand-to-hand combat, but what makes Abaddon so terrible is that it's just the amount of fleets that he controls, the power that comes with him. So, Kevin Carpenter, I have a question. I hope someone can help me. Has anyone used Vallejo thinning medium? If so, do you use it the same way you use water to thin your paints? I've used it before. I found that I liked it for normal acrylic paints. I did not like it if I was trying to thin out a wash. It was because it's like this weird in between of like it's thinner than a paint and it is an acrylic medium, so it totally works for that, right? It's great for like your base paints, your layer paints, that kind of stuff. Technical stuff and the washes, I found it did not do a very good job because it actually is sometimes thicker than them. So yeah. That would be the only thing, is because like sometimes I will frequently thin down a wash to get like a cool shade or a transition or something like that, and it never seemed to pan out with the Vallejo one for Games Workshop washes. So yeah. Oh my God, Savage Orcs is actually happening. They're good. They're gonna, you'll see them losing a lot on re-rolling ones here. Actually, Mark has bone splitters. He just never uses them. He got them, I think he got them on eBay or something like that. But basically, they were painted by an artist as an army on Parade Army, but he didn't care for AOS as a game. He just wanted to paint the models and win, which I think he did. And then sold the army. I think he's just a painter type. And so Shu from Rolling Ones grabbed it, and the problem is with getting a truly pro painted army, not eBay pro painted where it's in air quotes and looks like a 2-year-old attacked it with a crayon. Actually pro painted army is that you can't always replicate the scheme. And so it's one of those things where it's like, that's a beautiful army. It's going to stay that exact same army for eternity. Forever and ever. So, if you do ever get stuff commission painted, make sure that you tell your commission painter that you want to be able to replicate what they do. That's an important tip for you. Because this plastic glue is just taking forever to dry this one piece. One thing I totally forgot today is I meant to prime my objectives so I can start using them in narrative campaigns. I have the Shattered Dominion narrative objective piece things. Gotta get those in. Jeremy Upchurch, I'm looking at getting into AOS with a couple of friends. I really like the look of the Carriage Overlords What would be a place to start purchase-wise? Start collecting bucks? Start collecting bucks. What I would say is if you and a group of friends don't play Age of Sigmar and you're all looking to get it at the same time, everyone grabbing a start collecting box is a fantastic thing. You all have models to build, you all have stuff to paint, rules to explore and forget, as new folks do, because it's a lot. It's like drinking from a fountain. That would be my suggestion. For Carriage and Overlords in particular, just be aware that their start collecting box is a little bit funny compared to the other ones. So most of the starter boxes come with a battle line choice, which is like your most basic troop to start playing the game, right? Every army needs to have, for like 1,000 point lists, a hero, 2 basic troop units. Theirs is unique in that they don't come with one. And so that's a little bit different. And so it could be perceived that that's a little bit wonky. Just be aware. They're by no means, that does not give them any kind of advantage, because KO are waiting for a new book to kind of come and like fix some of the weaknesses of the army. They're not in a super strong place right now. That should not affect your decision. If you like the way they look, you should play Carriage and Overlords. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I mean, in terms of just starting that particular faction, grab yourself a start collecting box and hop on the Carriage and Overlord Facebook group. They're very, very, very encouraging over there. And I would say your next step after that is going to be buying Arcanaut Company, which is the basic 10-man squad to fill up your battle line requirements. But yeah, there's some cool stuff. I won't tell you what to do with them because I want you to explore in terms of like weapon loadouts. But you have a blast, my friend. I like the idea of a group all jumping into something at the same time. I kind of want that, but at the same time, it's like my friends are the guys from Rerolling Ones, and so it's like, well, if they jump into something else, we're all gonna have to learn a completely different new game and stuff like that. So yeah. Let's see. Look, I'm never gonna get over how Abaddon ditched Katie after Celestine stabbed him in the back. That's funny. I think I only read part of... what was the name of that series where like the end times of 40k last edition? I can't remember what it was called. Oh, that's when the triumvirate boxes came out. I can't think of what the actual like series was called. I know Fall of Katie was the first book. I don't know. Gathering Storm, is that it? Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Boss Slagfist. Finally got my store in Bremerton to start our AOS community. I'm the only non-elf. Well, technically one Sylvaneth. Is that Bremerton, Washington? If so, do I know you? I don't know everyone's username. Because that'd be legit. Because I thought there was already a community in Bremerton. Hi Doug, my fan-made Chaos character, the Hugh the Great Darkness Emperor lore is doing very well. Awesome. Cool stuff. I like when people make their own lore. Awesome stuff. Let's see. Slagfist. Yep. Oh, cool. You never met in person. All right. I'm actually at some point headed up to Bremerton to game with some of the gentlemen from Digital and Dice, which is a sweet podcast. Does a lot of stuff about like RPGs, D&D, Pathfinder. I think. I'm not a huge part of that world, so I don't actually know what games they play, but you know what I mean. There's one. Oh, okay, I get it. So you played a different store. That makes perfect sense. That's what I was thinking. I didn't know there was multiple stores in Bremerton. I'm gonna be super honest about that. One day I want to move out there. because it's one of those things. Everyone has that town where it's not far technically, like geographically, but it's just a pain to get there. And that's Bremerton for me, where it's just like I'm way on the east side of Seattle, and so it's just like I want to hang out with these guys because they seem really cool. Man, that's a whole day trip right there. Every flavor of elf, and I play goats and trying squigs. Nice. So yeah. How's bonesplitterz going? Any big stabbers? I have 2 units of big stabbers right now. So that's so each unit is 2 teams. So I have a sum total of 4 big stabbers right now. And I don't know at all. I'm gonna check actually right now while all this glue is drying and see what that comes out to be points wise when I put all that stuff together. Because at this point I do have 2 battle line. Let's see. Destruction. Bonesplitterz. Bonesplitterz. I'm just calculating with the heroes I'm about to get. Stabbers. Maniacs. More boys. Okay, so after I grab my heroes on Tuesday from that sweet deal that I'm getting, that is 1,040 points. It is annoying to have 40 points over. But I could drop, so that would be, if I drop a set of more boys, it goes down to 980. Okay, so that's cool. That's cool. So that would be a Wargog Prophet, a Savage Big Boss, the Big Stabba teams, 10 Boar Boy Maniacs, the guys riding the boars over here, and 20 Savage Orc more boys. And that gives me my hero and 2 battle line for 1k. So that's cool. I would describe that as both Neato Torpedo. That's cool, Hugh. Yeah, the Chaos Gods are cool because they work in both settings. That's cool. Bye, Kenzie. Have a wonderful evening. I'm going to build these last 2 dudes and then hop off myself because I got to go cook a late night dinner. My wife volunteers with some youth, and she's usually out till about 9 on Sundays, so try to have stuff ready for her when she gets home. Big Stabba, best Stabba. Exactly. Cole Adams, if you Google AOS War Scroll Builder, you can make your own custom character War Scroll. Yep, I actually did a video about that, about building your own characters. Because I got really frustrated that I couldn't have Gardas, just Gardas. So I was like, yeah, just build your own. I think in that example, I actually built the War Scroll for a character from Nagash Undying King. The main character is a female necromancer, but she uses necromancy in a cool way, so she's not evil per se. Let's see. What do you think about meeting engagements for GHP 2019? You know, I played one game. I played against Jack from Rolling Ones on Thursday. I'm terrible at time. I will say a few positive things up front. It was incredibly fast. If you look at the rules for many of the scenarios, they go to round 4 instead of 5. And since you spend, in most games, your first round literally just moving around the board, like going to objectives and stuff like that, you know, when the action starts, it happens very brutally fast. And so that's a plus. That's a real plus. So, you know, smaller games, turns end quicker, so you have to be much more conscious of like model placement of when you're going to an objective, looking through the win conditions for the scenarios, because you have to use the 1K scenarios for that format for it to work. So looking at those things, the win conditions, like the actual way that you accumulate points, is very cool. So that's a really positive thing for me. Sorry, I'm just adjusting my seat here. For example, like the one that we played was the raid, and the way you get points for that is if you each have 2 objectives, and at the end of the battle round, you get, I think it was 3 points if you control more objectives than your opponent. So you don't accrue points from owning objectives over time. No, it's like at the end of the battle round, do you have more than your opponent? Yes, you get this. Okay, cool. And then the other way to get points was if at the end of the battle round, everyone rounds up how many, the wounds characteristic of the models they killed from their enemies and stuff like that. So that means like if you kill an orc, if you kill a single Morboy, you get, it counts as 2 because he has 2 wounds. But for example, like I took out the Carriage Overlord Frigate, which is 14 wounds, and so he has to beat that. Whoever kills the most wound-wise gets 2 points. So it's like everything's racked up and costed for how much victory points you get at the end of the round. So things just get really brutal and really fast, and I really like that. Now, one thing that I will say as a criticism, and it could have just been the scenario we played, is first of all, so I played my Stormcast Vanguard because I wanted to bust it out and then just start rolling dice. And so first round, I actually teleported my Palladors with the Lord Aquilord and his ability to like pick a Vanguard unit and teleport across the table. And I picked it up and I teleported right inside the Carriage Overlord player's face. Okay, right in Jack's face. Failed the charge, so they just sat there like a bunch of losers. That's fine, whatever. However, we were looking in the rules and we could not find a single thing that prevented when a unit is deployed, because you know how they come in different waves. Well, when you deploy your next wave, nothing prevents you from deploying within 9 inches of an enemy. We couldn't figure that out. So it's like, that's a blind spot. That kind of needs an FAQ, because that means he could have deployed within 3 inches of me and just been in combat. Now, of course, it's a KO player. He doesn't want that, but it was a weird thing. The other part of it was the downside I see to that format is either you're going to have fast units or long range ones, but not a lot in between, because the reason I did that super stupid self-destructive jump across the table right into the KO player's face was because, you know, I wanted us to have a good time and laugh a lot. But I'm looking at the table and I'm like, all of my Vanguard stuff can move fast and claim objectives, right? His KO stuff moves 4 inches. So if I don't go to him and start engaging with him, he's going to spend 2 turns of the 4 turns that we have just walking. And like, that is so boring. And so that's what I mean. It has to be long range to reach out and hit your enemy, like the frigate came right up and did stuff, or fast like the Vanguard to dart for objectives. So I think it's such a very specific format. It's going to have its own winners and its own losers in terms of game balance. You know, I think Slaanesh stuff is always going to be good there. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other stuff. I have to really reread and kind of deep dive back into the rules. Because we just played that once and we were kind of reading it as we went, which is not always the best way because you tend to miss stuff. But, yeah, no, overall I was very happy with it. I see the potential. I just think it needs a few things tuned up in terms of deployment and where you can be, where you can place models. I think it needs a tune up in terms of... it'll take a while for us to figure out what factions do really well in that format and which ones kind of suffer. So, interesting stuff. Let's see here. Oren, Doug, you should rename your channel Trading Armies every time I watch you when you do one. Yep, absolutely. That's the goal. The goal is to keep people guessing. Although I've had 2 people reach out to me and say that the rate at which I trade armies stresses them out. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. You know, this is the way I am. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18. Okay, so I have 12 left to, wait, no. 12, I have 8 left. 8 left to build. Okay. Well, we'll do that next time. I got to hop off and start making dinner for the missus. But hey, friends, thank you all so much for joining me. And great questions. Let's chat about those. I'm going to do, like I said, my tactical series. And I'm going to pick back up talking about the 1K format in more detail once I get my book back from Jack. And we'll have a cool discussion about that, pros and cons and things like that. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining me. I will talk to you all very soon.